Hey everyone, Thornton Smash here, Resident Apex Predator, and today I wanted to do a video to help you with the best settings for Apex Legends in Season 8. This will help you on Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. It is universal across all of those different systems, so you can prevent problems like this.
No!
Quick shout out as always to the first 3 commenters on yesterday's video, Jackson, L2, and Rhythm. You guys are champions. So to go ahead and mess with your settings, you simply hit start, go into the settings menu, and you're in. The first 2 are depending on if you're a new player or a regular player. The interactive prompt style is going to be 1. You can set it to default, and that's going to go ahead and show you this bigger box, kind of letting you know all the settings. If you set it to compact, like I do, you can go ahead and have it small, saving yourself quite a lot of visual screen time. The other one you're going to want to look at is the button hints. Basically, if you turn this off, it doesn't tell you to ping or go ahead and pick up the way you normally would. If you have it on, you can go ahead and see that, and now it gives you the option to ping. It lets you know what buttons you need to hit. So if you're a new player, you're going to want to have these on, but if you're an experienced player, you're going to save yourself a lot of screen time by not having them. The next 2 I always recommend having on. The first one is the crosshair damage feedback. You want X with a shield icon. This will let you know what level shield they're using, as it will highlight a purple hue around them when you hit them. Along with that, when you hit, it will go ahead and give you a little X marker letting you know you've hit your target, which is incredibly useful. Along with that, you want damage numbers typically to be on stacking. This allows you to know when you're stacking numbers how much total damage you've done. Like I see there, I can know, hey, I did 55 damage on this guy up to 140. You're all set on that. Don't have that on, it's a lot of numbers guessing. There's floating, which goes ahead and just puts it above 1 number for each damage event, and that basically I don't find nearly as helpful as stacking. Off, you can't even tell how much damage you've done, which makes communication with teammates very hard. Ping opacity is simply a user choice. If you like to have a bright ping when people are on your team letting you know where things are, have that at default. If you don't like the pings at all on your map, go ahead and put that to faded. It's all personal preference. Now, obituaries I recommend having on. It allows you to see who's getting knocked around the map, if there's a kill leader, who you need to look out for. It gives you just a little bit more information than you normally would have, so that it allows you to go ahead and game plan and strategize a little bit more. I personally don't like the minimap rotation on. It makes me very disorientated, but some people I do know like it. Basically, the minimap will rotate as you're moving around. I know one guy named Eve Slave who actually really likes this, and for him it works great. For me, I don't like it. It throws me off quite a bit. I always recommend having weapon auto cycle on empty. Basically, as you can see right here, if I go ahead and dump my clip and it's empty, it'll switch to my next gun right away. This is incredibly helpful. Now, in any video game, the less buttons you have to hit to get the action you want done, the better. So I have auto sprint actually on. This basically just allows me to auto sprint whenever I'm in the game. Whenever I'm not stopping, it allows me to slide a lot easier. I can just focus a lot more on everything else than pushing down a thumbstick. In the same vein, I also recommend double tap sprint being off. It's just more buttons you have to hit, which really just adds more unnecessary things you need to do throughout the game. So with the incoming damage feedback, you're going to want that being set to 3D. Basically, if I throw this grenade and I walk towards it, it'll give me a 3D arrow right there that lets me know, hey, that's where the incoming fire or incoming damage is coming from. It's pretty helpful in that regards. 2D does similarly the same thing, but it's just a 2D dimensional arrow, and it really will kind of just throw you off and kind of make it harder to see where that stuff's coming from. Now, in regards to taking damage closes death box menu, I actually highly recommend having this off. If you're in a death box of an enemy and you're looting through it, if you get shot and you have this on, it'll instantly pull you out. However, you should also be aware of your situational awareness when you have all these other settings on, so that by turning it off, you'll know that you're being shot and you can manually close it. It can be very annoying sometimes when you're trying to get into a death box, you know you're safe even though they're just hitting you with a sniper from halfway across the map, that you can no longer get the items you want and you have to go back in, allowing yourself to get shot one more time. Now, in regards to the hop-up, pop-up item right here, you can do it with your personal preference. If you're new to the game, you might want this on. Basically, as you go over towards the attachment you can put on above the gun, you will notice it says hammer point rounds, damage increase on unshielded. However, if it's set to off, you will not see that menu. Basically, if you're familiar with the hop-ups and what they do, you might as well just turn this off, as it's just saving you more screen space. But if you're new to the game, it's very helpful for knowing what items do what. Now that we've got the gameplay out of the way so that you're basically set with the UI interface and all that, it's time to go into the controller, which is where you're really going to make your bread and butter in winning these games. Now, the button layouts, you can choose from a different variety of them. Some of them, if you're coming from games like Call of Duty halo, you can find the correct one that really suits your ability, and this will be on every single system you can find, and you can even customize it if you would like. With the interact reload button, always have it on tap to use and reload, otherwise you have to hold down the buttons, and that's just causing you to waste more time when trying to do different actions. Always keep that on tap to use and reload. Way more helpful. The crouch button should be toggle, not hold. That's my personal preference, but personally I like to be able to go in and out of the crouch as I would like, and it also helps when you crouch and strafing, shooting the other enemies, so that it makes it harder for you to hit. The aim button you're going to want on hold, not toggle. If you go ahead and hit the hold, you can go in and out at your discretion. If you have it set to the toggle, you get this really annoying feature where basically I'm not having any fingers on the button. I will stay in that, and then I got to hit it again. It's just more button pressing and over. You don't want to do more button pressing. Now the next two are actually going to be super important. The trigger dead zones you want on none. It determines basically how sensitive the triggers are when pressed. If you have it on none, it instantly will fire. Basically it helps a ton with getting this rapid fire mechanic done with a lot of different weapons. A lot of people are like, oh, how are you finding that fast? Literally, it's setting that to that. It will help you a ton, believe me. The other big one is the menu cursor speed. You'll notice a lot of people when in Deathbox are flying through it. By increasing the menu cursor speed when you're in a Deathbox, you can go up and down really fast. However, you're gonna have to get used to it. So I recommend starting at something of a little bit lower level, and then as you continually play throughout the day, slowly ramp it up, increase the speed to help you adjust to that high speed so you can get in and out of death boxes very quickly and keep moving. Sensitivity is basically gonna be like any other first-person shooter. The higher sensitivity you have on view sensitivity, the quicker you can look left to right. Pretty helpful in that regards. And the look sensitivity aiming down sight is basically how much you can aim down sight and how sensitive it is. I like to have this one a little bit lower than my regular sensitivity, as it really lets me hit pinpoint target accuracy on who I'm trying to shoot when aiming down the sights, but still maintain a basic, oh, I had the toggle function on for showing you guys. See how stupid that is? Now you also have the ability to change the sensitivity for each optic, which is incredibly helpful. As you can see here, they have every single sight listed, and you just want to simply turn this on to allow that. Now for the 1x and the 2x optic, you're going to see that it's very high, because usually when I'm using those, I'm very up close to the enemy and I want to be able to look left to right to go with their movements and their strafe speed as quickly as possible. As you get the higher end optics that can see further out, I go lower because it allows me, when lining up a shot from far away, to get the correct sight on them, and basically so that I don't, whiff it with a joystick and go hard left. Now with the response curve, it's going to depend on a lot of the other settings that you've decided to go with. I personally prefer linear because it allows me to basically have very responsive sticks along with all the high settings that I have on customization. If you don't have customization, you can go with some other ones like the classic, steady, fine aim. Those are kind of built for the default settings, but if you've done some of these higher ones, you're going to want to do linear or high velocity. That really allows a lot more responsiveness with your controller in the settings that we've gone ahead and done. Look dead zone is going to be completely dependent on how good of a controller you have. If you have really bad stick drift, set it to large, but if you just have a normal controller and it works fine, keep it on small. In no case should you ever put it on none. What will happen is, and I'm not even gonna have my hand on the controller, you're just gonna automatically get stick drift. So I recommend just having this on small. Wow, what a beautiful sky. Movement dead zone is once again also going to be on small. If you once again have issues with stick drift, put it on large, but it should be basically the same as your look dead zone. Inverted look is always set to off unless you're one of those players who likes to play on inverted, then by all means go ahead. This is 100% personal preference. Vibration, I highly recommend having off. I know some people like it on. Personally, I don't like it when I'm shooting enemies and my hands are shaking. I'd rather have a very calm and still hand and not have that on so I can focus on shooting instead of holding my controller in place. So now we're going to dive into the advanced look controls, which is a very much more technical part of the settings. Make sure that before you go ahead and mess with this stuff, that you have everything else on the settings that we've gone over and that it's set to the preference that you like, because this is going to be much more fine tuning, but I'm going to try to help you guys out the best I can that helps me out the most. So I'm starting everything with the base as 0 just so I can show you guys each value. It's important to note here that for whatever reason, Apex Legends doesn't have like a 1, 2, or 3 setting. So when you get to this, you're going to want to go ahead and just give it one individual thing at a time, just like I'm about to go over. And I'll go ahead and give you guys the numbers that help you the most without actually putting in each input, because that would take forever. Okay, starting from the top and working our way down, your dead zone is going to be at a 2. So you just simply move that 2 to the right. The outer threshold is going to be 3, and you want your response curve at 14. Now we're going to go into the yaw speed. The yaw speed I recommend at around 15, but the pitch speed right below that is always going to be 4 less than your yaw speed setting. So if you change your yaw speed, make sure that the pitch speed is always 4 less. Then we're going to go ahead and go into our turning extra yaw, which is going to be 17 ticks to the right. The extra pitch should be 13. The turning ramp up time should be 1. And the turning ramp up delay should be 0. Now the ADS yaw speed is going to go ahead and be 15, just like previously stated, and the pitch speed is always, just like before, going to be 4 less than your yaw speed. So go ahead and set that to 11. Now for the ADS turning extra yaw, that's going to go ahead and be 17. The extra pitch is going to be 13, and the ramp up time is going to be 1, with the ramp up delay being 0. These advanced look controls help me feel like the game is very similar to a Call of Duty style game, but you can adjust each slider to find your personal preference if you aren't a big fan of these ones in particular. Each thing is adjustable, so if you like these settings, awesome, I'm glad for you, but go ahead and feel free to tinker with them and let me know in the comments if there are any special controls that you found work a little bit better. Now we're going to move into the video section, which is actually quite important. The brightness isn't a huge thing, that's all dependent on the TV that you're running. The sprint view shake, I recommend having on minimal. It just causes less distraction while you're running around and allows you to focus on enemies in your peripherals. What's really important is the field of view. Now set on 72, you have a pretty good idea of what's around you, but if you go ahead and increase that slider to say, let's say 94, where I usually keep mine, you have a way wider view of what's around you. I do want to make a side note to all those of you who are going to be playing on the Nintendo Switch. The field of view is also going to be something that you're going to want to tinker with, because we don't know the resolution along with the frames per second yet of how the game is going to run, and the field of view does impact that. So once the game does launch, I'll go ahead and update this, but also go ahead and tinker with that setting. You're probably not going to be able to run it at 94 like I do on a console, but you can probably go ahead and raise it from its default status. And then last up, we have audio, which I have nothing to say about, because this is all about how you like to hear things. If you want to go ahead and turn down the sound effects, you're going to have a harder time hearing footsteps and all that, but you know, the game's kind of busted sometimes and you can hear footsteps anyways. The dialogue volume doesn't need to be at 100. These are at default settings. Go ahead and change each one to help you out. I recommend having the master volume pretty high and the sound effects volume pretty high as well, and kind of turning down the dialogue volume so that you can hear enemy footsteps and enemy movement and gunfire. But that's basically those settings. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. It should help you get all the perfect settings for when it launches on a Nintendo Switch, or if you're on an Xbox or PlayStation, this should really help you fine-tune your game. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I respond to every single one, so I'd be more than happy to go over them and help clarify anything that you have questions on. Until next time, Legends, keep slaying in the Outlands, and I'll see you out there.